And I know the club close at 3. What's the chance of you rolling with Spin C? What's up, my dudes? I told you boys I was going to take it to a whole nother level here in 2022. It's big dog time now, baby. It's big dog time now. So we got the review of the Round 4 RF Anaheim 2 track here on MX Simulator. Yeah, I mean, RF's finally, getting somewhere back to something here. It's about all I can really say with it. Spency Boy's going a little too hardcore when he gets back on the Honda dyno. Spency Boy getting a little too serious out here. Whoa now. Easy now, big dog. Oh, man. So, yeah, they're finally starting to get some, whoop difficulty that they had absolutely none of in the first, 2 rounds. They're starting to get some jump rhythm scaling like they didn't have in the first 2 rounds. It's just hilarious to me how RF, they'll eventually do what I tell them to do. It just takes a certain amount of time. You know what I'm saying? They'll eventually do all this shit that I'm telling them to, but they'll sit here and mess around for however many years before they figure it out, and then they'll get it, right? Just like, damn, dog. But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, make the berms bigger. If you make the berms bigger and you put some pre-made ruts, some spots on the track, you make the traction a little more like dirt, it's just going to make it better. I'm just telling you, it's just going to make it better. But finally, they're getting some of that edge back to the main Supercross triple jumps, getting that edge back to the whoop sections. And it makes all the world of difference, man. That's like everything to it. This is more of like an actual pro-level track in this game, whereas the first and second round that RF made was not even close. So all of you boys that thought that Anaheim 1 track and that Oakland track was so good, you were so impressed with it, you thought those were really good tracks, well, you better come in here and talk about how bad this track is, if that's the case, because they're 2 completely different things. I don't want you boys to go in there and say Anaheim 1 and Oakland was so good, and then this Anaheim 2 track is also so good, because they're 2 completely different tracks, right? You can't have your cake and eat it too. You've got to be real about this shit. You got to be real with your opinions about it. There's a lot of people that don't really understand what they're talking about when they talk about skill gap on these tracks. They don't understand what they're saying. So that's precisely what I'm saying is this is at least 3 to 5 times the skill gap that you had in the first 2 rounds. So, like I'm saying, if you were somebody that was saying stuff like those first 2 rounds were fine, Spencer just wants all these massive jumps, Spencer wants too big of whoop sections, well, RF has now done exactly what I was telling them to do in those first 2 reviews that I did on the first 2 tracks this year. They're now doing that. The whoops are twice as big, 3 times as big. I mean, and the edge to them just makes so much of a difference. Even just the standard jump rhythms. You can't just be lollygagging and hit all these jump rhythms on this track. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. If I was so wrong about those first 2 rounds, all of you amateur boys got all fired up on me, right? If I was so wrong about all of my opinions there, then why have they changed exactly what I told them to change? Think about it for a second. Was Spency Boy right? Oh, damn. I know that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but here we go. Another prime example. But I don't want you guys to ever forget about what RF did these first 2 rounds, because they'll probably come out there next year and do the exact same thing. That's what they did last year. That they've got this tendency of doing that now, where they go out there and act like they have no idea what they're doing with track designs, and then they'll come in there and figure it out like round 4 or 5, You know what I mean? But it seems like they restart that cycle every single year. They just restart it over and over. It's like they don't learn anything from what they did, and then they have to restart this process over of making smaller jumps, smaller whoops, amateur difficulty tracks, and then they'll start making the pro tracks again. It's just like this weird, endless cycle of back and forth and back and forth. I don't know, man. But to just give you an example, if this would have been like the scaling and difficulty of their Anaheim 1 race, their Anaheim 1 track this year, I might have already been pro racing again. You know what I mean? That's the difference it makes, making how shitty those tracks really were compared to something like this right here. The finish line, you actually have to, hit it. You're not like doing everything you can to slam on the brakes and go as slow as you possibly can to not overjump a 50cc length jump. Okay, the finish line actually feels like a Supercross finish line jump. It's just, man, I don't know. And it seems like every track they've made this year has been made by a completely different track maker. That's how different each one of the rounds have been this year. You do realize that, right? Feels like they've been made by a completely different track maker. Every track this year so far. That's how inconsistent they really have been. So, I mean, yeah, this track is way more of what you would call a pro-level track. I think they've done some adjustment with the tile map, with the actual traction of it. This doesn't feel quite as like deep sand as what the other tracks did this year. I could be wrong on that. This could be the exact same kind of tile map. I don't know. It just doesn't quite feel as sandy or frictiony. It feels like they've slowly tweaked it a little bit to make it a little bit more like dirt. Every impact on this track feels a little more like a real impact, but I don't know. It's certainly not like a 2017 level tile map, that kind of dirt feeling, but I feel like it's a little more of a dirt feeling than the first two rounds were. Maybe that's just because the track is better and it's kind of tricking me into thinking that. I don't know. But nonetheless, I mean, I just don't know what to say about this shit anymore, man. But if I was to go in there and get prepared to pro race again, right, I would be going in there racing on those public online servers that are circulating all of these 2022 RF tracks. That's including the absolute dog water Anaheim 1 and Oakland track. So I would have to sit there and ride on those dumbass tracks over and over and over in those, public servers. I just don't really have any ambition to do that. It's just like RF is on year number 12 here. They were obviously capable of this the entire time. So why the fuck did you get what you got in Anaheim 1 and Oakland? Why? It makes no sense. But nonetheless, man, this track does have like this super wide, smoothed off berm kind of feeling to it, but I mean, that is kind of the new wave of what RF is doing. They are relying on a road to do absolutely everything on the track. So if you're not playing with the road on, you're going to get a very basic, everything's super smoothed off berm wise. You're not going to have any kind of, any sort of pre-made at all in the berms, which I think is just kind of silly at this point. I still think, even if you were running a road, I still think you can ramp up the peak of these berms more and put some inside ruts in some of these corners. I still think you can do that, even with the road turned on. You would just have to lower your road setting just a little bit if you were going to put some pre-made ruts, but a road just has a really big problem with replicating what you can make with pre-made ruts in the game. It's never been able to make that level of ruts. You know what I mean? It's just never been able to do that. So, but nonetheless, Smitty boy, the big dog, dude, out here on the CR. Oh, man. So, yeah, I mean, this track was, it had some fun factor to it. It had some skill gap to it. As you can see, Spency Boy getting gnarly right there. You know? But it's just, when they make a track like this at round 4, with how different this track really was in those first 2 rounds, it's just mind-baffling. It's like, how can you change it that much? If you were able to change it that much, it almost just seems like you guys were being absolutely stupid about those first 2 rounds. Like you knew better than what you were doing in those first 2 rounds, but you did it anyways. You know, you knew better making those Supercross 1 official difficulty whoop sections on those first 2 rounds. You knew what you were doing, but you did it anyways. That's what it seems like to me. Why does the community have to come in here every year now, RF, and correct your shit for you? Why is that? Why can't you just do it right from the first round like you used to? Oh, wait, that's because you're not even the same RF anymore. You're not even RF anymore. You're FR. Oh, wow, now it all makes sense. Oh, man. But you got to love how, you know, we got to come in here and, you know, steer RF in the right direction, tell them that their whoops are literally amateur level whoop difficulty, their jump rhythms are literally amateur level difficulty, and then they'll finally get it in the 4th round. They'll finally start getting some kind of skill gap, some kind of jump difficulty, some kind of whoop difficulty. It's like, damn, dog, that's exactly why I'm not racing anymore. Because they have proven to me over and over again that they have no idea what they're doing. And you just look at that Oakland track and you think, man, if that's the effort that they're putting into these pro paid esports RF tracks, what kind of effort are they putting into, you know, really trying to go in there and monitor the people that are key sharing or the people that are running micro hacks? You know, what kind of effort are they really putting into that if they can go in there and make a track like the Oakland track? Do you see what I'm saying? If that's the kind of effort they put into the Oakland track, which was basically none, that's the kind of effort they're putting into every other aspect of the pro racing of this game. You have to apply it everywhere. That's what I'm saying. Like, there is so many kids in this game getting away with everything because RF, it's just nowhere near the amount of people in it and looking at what everybody's doing and keeping it at that tippity-top professional level. It's just not that thing anymore, man. And these track designs that we've gotten so far in 2022 should prove that to you. They still are all over the place. You know what I mean? I almost would have had more respect for RF if they would have come out there at that Anaheim 1 and that Oakland track and they just stuck with that throughout the whole year. You know, that would have, even though that would have been terrible because those tracks were terrible, I would have had more respect for you because it would have been like, okay, that's the kind of track designs you thought you was going to run in 2022 before the season ever even started, and you stuck with it and you stuck to your guns and you did it. But that's not what you did. You came out with those first 2 rounds. You came out with the first round. Everybody told you how shitty it was. You did the same thing or worse in the second round. Everybody really came out and told you how shitty that one was. So then you completely change your ways and do something totally different than you were doing in the first 2 rounds. I mean, yeah, it's making the tracks better, but like you do realize how much of an idiot, how much of a, just like you have no idea what you're doing. That's the kind of vibe that you're playing off now. You literally have no idea what you're doing because of how much you can change a track from one weekend to the next. It goes to show me that you have no real roadmap. You have no real idea on what you're actually doing. And that's what worries me when you start talking about a road settings, a road levels, all that kind of stuff. You can apply that to that as well. You see what I'm saying? It's just like, damn. You're running a side series. That's what you're actually running right now, big dog. So nonetheless, yeah, this is the best track they've made so far this year. I expected at least this level of skill gap and difficulty at the Anaheim 1 track, but you guys know we didn't get that at all. We got an amateur sand track at Anaheim 1, so... Oh, man. All right, RF, so when we come up up to the 2023 RF Supercross season, this is the bare minimum. This is the absolute bare minimum of difficulty you should have on a track. Minimum. I swear to God, if you ever go back in there and make another pro RF track that has whoops that are any easier than this, what the fuck are you doing? If you go in there and make jump rhythms that are any easier than this, what the fuck are you doing? Don't ever do it again. This is your bare minimum skill gap to be considered a pro level track in this game. Bare minimum. You can make it more difficult, but you do not ever need to go easier than this. Ever. Ever again. Never, ever, ever again, and ever again. Now that we're to the point we are with these RF tracks, you should never make your tracks easier than this right here. Ever.